No, I can't answer that. I think and seriously, it's something we're going to continue to work through during the week, and it's a day-to-day thing, and it's something we're talking about constantly.
What have you liked about Clayton's growth from training camp to where he is today?
I think a lot of it's the process and understanding the game and the nuances between the college game and the NFL game, the speed of the game, the variety of coverage, how the run game ties into the quarterback's responsibilities. I think a lot of that was new to him. I think he really embraced that challenge and learning that and committing himself to that, so it's been fun to see.
If he does, in fact, start, how ready is he to play in that game at this point?
I think, and we've talked about this in this room, I think a couple times, like, my goal is that everyone in that room on offense is ready to start at their position. So the quarterback room is no different than that, whether it's Kyler or Clayton or anybody else. Our job as coaches is to make sure that when they're on the field, they are 100% ready to go.
Clayton's another one of those rookies, a part of this class that has truly been making an impact week in and week out from the offensive side of the ball. What have you seen from your rookie class?
A lot. I mean, as you said, they certainly have performed at a high level, been called in, taken a lot of reps and had a big impact on our season. I think the attitude and the effort stands out probably more than anything. They certainly, and we tried to identify that throughout the draft process and the guys that we bring into the building in terms of who they are, how they work, how they go about playing the game with a physical attitude, a team-first mentality, and I think that class certainly embodies that.
Is it fair to say that, I know Jonathan mentioned looking to get another quarterback in here, but does it seem clear that Kyler will at least be active for this game?
I think, again, that's something we're going to work through during the course of the week. That's going to be an organizational decision, make sure he's ready, but we're not going to put him out there before he's ready.
But if he is ready to be either, as you said, everyone out there is a potential starter. I guess the question is if he's ready to play, then why would he be the backup instead of starting?
Yeah, whenever he plays, he will be ready. That I can assure you.
With how Amari played over the weekend, has he solidified that spot? And what happened? Was he just working so much that he needed a rest? Did you decide to go to Ingram for a different reason? Because it seemed like there was a lot of Amari and then all of a sudden a ton of Ingram.
Again, I think, some of it's flow of the game, some of it's the workload. So much goes into who plays that position and how many reps they get. So I think that's certainly going to be something we continue to work through this week. Different front, different defense, different game plan, and they're all certainly going to have a role.
Thanks, Coach.
Real quick, what are your remembrances of that game 2 years ago when the Cardinals came there with Kyler and Spencer, of course, was calling the plays because I don't know if you're even aware of that because Cliff was on COVID.
I think they were both. COVID was a wild time. I think we can all admit that. So I remember it being wild, and I remember we lost. I think that's obviously frustrated. I was on the other side of it from a team standpoint, but it was a really hard fought game and came up on the wrong end of it. So hoping to correct that this week.
And going against that Browns defense with all the different things they can do and kind of Jim Schwartz's, I don't know if it's fair to call it a unique style, but what challenges does that present?
Yeah, I think it's just the way that they play the game. As you said, it's a unique style in terms of the violence they play with, the team speed, the effort, the intensity. Certainly the scheme that he's committed himself to over a long NFL career, done at a really high level with multiple organizations. So it presents a lot of challenges.
Back to Clayton for a second. In practice, what's he been showing you in terms of a physical standpoint that he's been doing well? Where do you think he still needs to grow?
Yeah, I think there's always room for growth in anyone's game. So there's always areas where say, hey, we can do this a little bit better, clean up your feet, where are your eyes, what decision, why did you make that decision? Okay, this is great, this is good, this needs to improve. So that's a day-to-day conversation, but I think overall, just the way that he's attacked his job and making sure that he is working on all those things and learning when he is getting reps, learning from the other guys' reps in the quarterback room is a really important thing. So he's done a nice job of that.
Has it been overwhelming for him at all coming from, obviously, college to the pro-style offense?
I think he'd answer that better than me, but I certainly haven't felt that. I think he's done a great job of handling the NFL game, handling the NFL offense, and making sure he's ready to go every week.
What would be some of the things that Kyler has to show this week to have everyone really comfortable to say he can play aside from the health, but obviously just with the center and so many different aspects of it?
Yeah, I think that you just hit on. There are so many different aspects of it from an operational standpoint, from a decision-making standpoint, from getting in and out of the huddle. I likened it'd be like someone going to play a regular season game on July 28th. And, realistically, that's how many practices he's had, essentially. So, getting him up to speed, getting him ready to go, that's a big task. But when he's ready to go, he's going to be out there.
We've obviously talked about Keytrell before, but obviously now he is inactive. Where does he kind of fit in with things? And is this performance-based? Did he kind of fall behind? Like, how did this kind of transformation kind of get to where we are?
Yeah, I mean, like we talk about all the time, roles can change throughout the year, and Keytrell is going to be a huge part of us going forward. He's a really good player with a bright future, and I feel pretty strongly about that. Honestly, it's a good problem to have right now with what we have going, because we just have a lot of guys in that room that we feel like can help us, give us a chance to win. And so we're working different rotations there. Every week it might look a little bit different. Keytrell he was disappointed, obviously, that he wasn't up for the game, but he had a phenomenal attitude, and I know he's going to come to work the exact same every single time. And I was pleased with how that room performed, and I'm excited to keep working with all those guys going forward. I think they're all going to play a huge role for us, and those roles can change week to week.
How did Garrett do in round 2 for what he's doing?
Really good. I mean, the fact that he is a rookie that did not get an offseason or a training camp and then is just stepping in mid-season, he doesn't look like what you would expect, right? He plays with great fundamentals. He plays within the scheme, very sound, knows what he's doing. We put a lot on his plate, too. I feel like he's going to be a really good pro because he has this along with the skill set. So I'm very pleased. I think he took strides from week 1 to week 2 for his play, and I think he's going to keep going up from there.
Give him a little bit more leeway because of he didn't have OTAs and camp training.
No, I mean, if you evaluated him like he's a veteran that's been here, you would say, man, he played a really good game. He played a really sound game. He wasn't making like mental errors or anything like that. Like, the guy is a pro, and he is highly intelligent. So we really don't look at him like, do we have to kind of alter this because Garrett's still getting up to speed? It's not that with him. If anything, we feel like we can load more with Garrett because he's, along with playing with Buddha and JT, like that little triangle in there in the middle of the defense is highly intelligent and is filled with good players. So I can't credit him enough for getting himself ready for this moment.
Prior to Buddha's return, you would have called him an eliminator. What is Jalen's role now that he's come back?
Eliminator 2. Yeah, gosh, both those guys, they play with motor. I mean, I think we all saw the third down play with Jalen on the screen, did a great job of shooting it, beating the alignment, and making a play. But Jalen's a guy that's going to eliminate plays if they leak through because he's a very good tackler in multiple ways, just from his ability to close space, his ability to take the correct angles, his ability to, at the point of attack, get on the guy's legs and get him down with no hidden yardage, like elite tackling to me between those both safeties. And then, JT has the ability to take the ball away. He did that earlier in the year, and then, he was out, and I expect him to, when he comes back, or now that he's back, start taking that ball away. So that coupled with, with JT on the field, with Garrett on the field, Buddha on the field, you have a lot of guys that can cover. And so there's never a situation where we're stressed out about a matchup that's created in the back end because we feel like we're have a group filled with guys that can really match up on anyone. So having JT in there is makes you dynamic schematically. So it's good to have him back in there as well.
So back with Keytrell for a moment, how much is it certainly like with Garrett being back, with Antonio, Starling showing some things, but then I guess guys like Bobby who have big roles on special teams, and Andre too. So how much, well, he's more of a safety, but how much does that affect Keytrell's,
Well, everything goes into guys' roles on game day and whether or not they're up, they're not, how much time they play. I mean, defense and special teams, or offense and special teams, obviously play a role into that, and that can be different week to week as well. But Keytrell's just going to keep striving to improve his game. He's, like I said, he's going to be a big contributor for us down the line here, without a doubt in my mind. Other guys are playing good right now too, and it's a good problem to have. You got depth that you feel really good about anyone going in the game.
Tom, Dante said during training camp that you and the other coaches on the defensive staff told him that as long as he plays his game and he has fun doing it, he's going to do well so far in the NFL. Obviously, that's been happening as the games have progressed. What have you seen from his progression, and how much fun do you think he's having out there?
He is having fun out there because, in the past, if I've gotten on him on the bench, he's kind of like, well, coach, this time I got on something. He just started laughing at me because he was like, I could tell you really wanted me to get that one right there. So I can see he's a little bit more relaxed during the game. He is enjoying himself, but I've seen he's taken a huge step in both the run game and his pass rush. Like in the run game, I was pretty harsh on him for escaping blocks a certain way or not using his hands or taking false steps, and you just don't see that happening right now. I challenged the guys last week. That was a really good offense we faced with a good O-line, a good blocking tight end, and I challenged Dante and some of those other defensive linemen. They got to win their one-on-ones because of what they did schematically, presents such issues with you got to handle the quarterback and the running back in the run game. And so you needed guys to win one-on-one blocks, and Dante and a lot of the other D linemen did that. So I was pleased with that. And then, I did see that pass rush. He started rushing at a little bit different level just from his technique, and you saw the results of it. So I was pleased with how he was rushing. He was using power to push the pocket and then working an edge to get off and finish some sacks. So I was happy with, honestly, that whole room with how they rushed against a really good mobile quarterback last week.
Can you tell during camp and training camp if the guy is going to have this type of benefit? Like, what kind of season they're going to have, like with Dante? Were you able to tell back then that he was going to produce something?
Yeah, I think you can have some insight into, I see the potential in this guy, but you don't necessarily know that when that clicks or if that production ends up showing up. I guess that's why they have Monty makes the big decisions, huh? Because he's probably better at that than I am. But yeah, you can definitely see with a lot of guys, not just Dante, like when the skill set's there and the mindset is there and the character's there, you feel good about, hey, I feel like as a coach I can help this guy, and really collectively, not just the coordinator, the position coach, but the whole building, his physical preparation, his psychological preparation, his recovery, all that. Like, hey, this guy's going to be all in, and I think we got the resources here to get him to a point where he's really hitting his ceiling. And, that's a forever striving thing, like with everybody. We're always trying to improve. But you do see some of those results and those gains start to show up with certain guys, with Dante being one of them. So very pleased with where he's at. And he's got to continue to get better, and he's going to continue to get better.
There's communication every week, but is there more so this week with Drew and Izzy going up against the Browns?
Yeah, there is communication every week. You make a really good point, whether that's me to Drew to me, the entire offensive coaches of defense. I'm always in, Clayton and Cook's office as well. But yeah, I think this week it would be very wise to use those resources with people that have worked with Kevin and AVP and Callahan that close, just to pick their brains and kind of maybe help be able to see, like, how are they looking at me, try to get inside the mindset of the opposing team a little bit. It'll be helpful.
How is the approach to the game plan when they have some uncertainty at quarterback?
Yeah, I think that just makes us have to be a little bit more, maybe have a little bit more to the game plan, a little bit more layers that we can then start to eliminate as the week goes on, or even on game day once we gain that information. But you can't be unprepared for something, so you have to be prepared for everything. And then you just have to be able to be adaptable whenever that time comes to make sure that it's the plan that you want come Sunday.
Aside from the quarterback, what do you see in that Browns offense?
I think since Kevin's been there, they do a great job of running the football. The O-line is one of the best, and the offensive line coach, Callahan, he's also one of the best in the game. So you couple that with a play caller who's willing to run it, and good running backs. I know they lost Chubb, but they still have really good running backs behind that, and they will find ways to buy angles and get numbers and stay ahead of the sticks with their run game. And then they do a great job of marrying their run game with their keepers and their actions and screens. So, Kevin does a great job. He's done a great job since he's been there. Since I was with him in Minnesota, he's done a great job with that. So, that's to me with the Browns offense is they can run it, and they're going to be able to set those explosive plays up off their run game.
Where does that experience with him, and then obviously him with you and John, like, how does that affect kind of how you guys prepare, or not prepare, but like, where does that pay off, I guess? Does he know how you're thinking in some ways, and you know how he's thinking?
I would say back in the day, I probably tried to pick Kevin's brain more than he tried to pick mine. He's probably not thinking, let me go pick this, quality control coach's brain. But I was definitely trying to pick his brain. So, to a degree, I feel like I have a sense of how Kevin wants to go win games. But ultimately, there's a lot of details that go into winning a game that it's going to come down to, scheme, the execution, a lot of different things. So, subtle benefit, I guess, of back in the day being connected with the guy.
The coverage is varied, but we see Marco going up against the other team's, top receiver a lot. I mean, how do you feel he's responding to those challenges?
Yeah, he loves it when we tell him, hey, this is the week where you got to follow this guy, or even if he's not, he's ready to go do his job at a high level. So, whether or not this week he's moving, we don't know yet, but he's always up for the challenge. He doesn't care what the scheme is. He doesn't care how we're matching him. If we're not matching him, like, he just wants to go deny the ball. That's his mindset, and I appreciate that.
Is he pretty good at going, moving on from whatever happens in a play?
He is. He's very good. I mean, you have to have that at corner. And I think, our corners have that mentality of they're not going to let one play snowball into other plays, but that's easier said than done. And, I think we have a great group of leaders on defense, and it's not just talking about the corner position. It's throughout. If we have a bad series as a defense, or a guy has a bad play or whatever, you hear the talk amongst the players of getting each other refocused and refocused on the next whatever we have to go do, the next series, the next play, whatever that is. So, I told the players this, like, I appreciate them. I appreciate their leadership. I appreciate that the guys that they are. And I told the whole room, like, appreciate being with this group of guys, because I think the leaders that we have, like, there's no wavering in their mind, during the game. If something happens, they're playing 60 minutes full throttle. So I think it's kind of a testament of the guys on defense that, they keep me focused on the next one. It doesn't matter if it was a bad call or whatever. Hey, reset yourself and let's go. So I think our guys have that mindset that you're talking about with Marco. Marco's got that mindset, and I think everyone else does a good job of keeping ourselves on track with having that mindset, because you don't just have it or you don't have it. It's not that black and white. You got to continue to work it. You got to continue to remind yourself, remind each other. So they do a good job with that.
Despite the final score, you limited Lamar Jackson pretty well. Now that you're about halfway through the season, are you seeing the roots of your flower metaphor truly?
No, that's not. That Josh said that one. I didn't say that. I've seen improvement, with more improvement to be made. I think stuff that we did well in that last game is I thought we tackled well, got off blocks well. I think we did a good job of executing all 11 guys at once really well, and to, they ultimately, there's plays that I think we could have been better on that help us win that game. Credit to Baltimore, they made more plays than us and won the game. But I think there were some plays that you can pull from in that game that you can say, wow, when all 11 guys are doing their job, we're playing at a really high level. And you could see it in the back end when we were all connected in our coverage. Quarterback didn't have anywhere to go with the football, or he was throwing it into tight coverage, and then it allowed our front to be able to rush the right way and get after the quarterback, and that's playing complementary football defensively. So I was pleased with that, and I want to see that continue to keep getting better as the season goes.
With guys like Dante who have family members who have played in the NFL, can you tell that from a guy right away, and how beneficial can that be for a rookie trying to really get his bearings?
That'd probably be a question for those guys. I can't say that you can tell or not, but you can tell guys that have the right mindset. Dante being one of those guys, so hard to say there, but that's probably a question for them, if that their past experience or their family has helped them get to a certain point or have a certain mindset. That goes back a long ways. You'd have to ask them.
You don't want to chime in on the quarterback, Steve?
No.
You guys recovered the onside kick, obviously, this weekend. I believe it was the first one in the league this year that was successful. What are the mechanics these days on an onside kick compared to what they used to be? And are you fighting a losing battle on that front?
It's certainly been an adjustment. Was it 5 or 6 years ago they restricted what the kicking team could do, and there was like a minimum number of guys you could have in what they're referring to as the setup zone, but there was no maximum. And then a couple years ago, it changed to where you can't have more than 9 guys up there. So, it's taken a couple years to kind of get a feel for how different teams play things. There's really 2 basic alignments that a hands team can use. Now, they may be deployed differently, but 2 kind of basic philosophies. So using that information, you kind of have a feel going in a game with most people how they might deploy that, but it can always change. So it's certainly made it more challenging to recover, but it's not impossible.
Aaron and his wife had a baby Sunday morning, and he still played in the game. Any extra thank you or hug for him for still being there?
Yeah, I think Coach gave him some time yesterday when the rest of the guys were in to kind of catch up on his rest. But obviously a big deal for somebody to have that happen with their family, and we're thankful he was able to play. He wanted to play. Sam Sewell, who works with me on special teams, his dad played in the league. Exact same experience, born on a game day. His dad played in the game, and there were several people who were kind of sharing those things. But he told me Saturday before the game, he said, unless something goes wrong, I'll be there. So I was glad everything worked out.
Who is your emergency long snapper?
To be determined. It's not the kind of information you want to divulge.
How cool is it just to see your guys kind of grow up? You've been with Brandon for a while, Brewer for a while.
Yeah, life certainly changed since I first met those guys, for all of us. But yeah, I mean, there's not too many guys that I've coached, kind of from start to 10 plus years, and those guys have certainly grown up quite a bit since that time.
Go ahead.
How has it been this season? We know you talk about it sometimes, just with the adjustments that have to make with guys coming up and all that, and plugging different guys in on special teams. Has this been the season kind of like many others, or has there been any other new challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point in every season you go through it. When you're a young team and some guys' roles may change, they may play more, they may play less. On their side of the ball, you're kind of adjusting accordingly when it comes to the kicking game. It's been about normal from that standpoint, maybe a little more frequent for the first half of the season than in some years, but you stick around long enough, you kind of just know what's coming at some point during the season. You're trying to stay ahead of things. You're trying to develop guys in the practice squad because, it's hard to get somebody, not that you don't have to do it sometimes, but it's hard to get somebody up to speed who hadn't been here. So your best answer is usually somebody on your practice squad that's been working, and they get a chance to elevate. In Bobby's case, do well with the opportunity, sign to the roster, and that happens for guys, over time. So it's been normal. I'd say more normal than not.
One other question on the onside kick thing. Obviously, the idea that you could do 4th and 15 or whatever has been floated out there. I'm wondering your opinion on that, and do you think it'll ever get to that point, or do you think we've found this happy medium?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not involved in those conversations. I'm not in the room when those things are being discussed. My take on it is the puck drops in hockey, and there's a tip-off in basketball. Keeping the foot in the game on a kickoff, I'm all for. Player safety is the ultimate thing that we all want, players and coaches and league, and everybody wants to see the players stay safe. So if they feel like there's an alternative that helps that, it's certainly something to be considered. I'm not a fan of 4th and 15. I think that you're increasing the chances that the team that's behind is going to, come back. And there's 60 minutes of ball. So I like what we're doing right now, but if things change, we'll all adjust to it.
You mentioned Bobby. I know that he and I think Zeke played almost every snap on special teams Sunday. Is that unusual to play that many, especially with the different units that there are?
I think most teams have guys that start on 4 units. There's usually 5 or 6 guys on every team, sometimes more, sometimes less, but let's just say 5 or 6 who start in what we consider the big 4: kickoff return, punt return. Some of those guys play on our field goal block team, right? So that's where that gets up there. Our field goal team, I'm not sure that I want Zeke playing left guard on our field goal team or Bobby, but not they couldn't do it, but, that's not kind of their job description. So, you get into those guys that are, sometimes 90 or high 80% in terms of special teams. That's usually what happens. He's a 4-phase starter in the big 4, also plays field goal block, and there weren't, a ton of field goal opportunities.
When Pat Bower covered that onside kick, how have you seen him as a rookie kind of embrace the opportunity to just get onto the field?
Yeah, it's foreign for almost every player that comes into this league to play special teams. It's not something most of them spent 4 years, 3 years in college. Well, now with COVID, 6 years in college. Those guys, they're typically all conference, all whatever, and that's not their role. Some guys are different. Zeke played a lot of special teams in college, so there was a legit evaluation. But Owen played some in the kicking game. But then they get here and they're competing with guys. This is their livelihood. They've been doing this 8, 9, 10 years. Exactly what he's trying to do, competing. The guy he's trying to block or the guy that is rushing him. Those guys are grown men with families, so there's a little bit of a mindset adjustment when a young guy comes in the league. Owen's done a good job of, over time, he's developed. He's played better in just about every area. There's still room for growth, still room for him to improve. What set Owen apart in terms of the onside kick recovery, they had a guy who hustled from the backside. He was far away from the ball, the other side of the hash, and he came running. And that ball squirted up in the air. And Owen jumped up and high-pointed the ball. And so did the other guy. Owen just out-jumped him. There's several guys looking up at the ball kind of low, but you like to see a guy seize the opportunity. And I would say that that ball's not designed to go to Owen. His job is to kind of be a second-level player and hustle, and he did. And the ball found him. He found the ball, and he's improved. We're still working towards, being really productive. He came to my office last week and said, if we sit down and watch all my snaps from this season, I just don't feel like I've been as productive in some ways than others, and that's a mature thing for a player to do. Because we obviously spend plenty of time in meetings, but sometimes it's player just wants, okay, can you give me 10 minutes to go through all of this stuff and specifically tell me how can I get better?